Hi guys, welcome back. So today I am going to be talking about powders for dry skin. So I have powders for you guys. They just don't look so powdery and they just sit really nicely on dry skin. So my skin right now is dry, it's combo, I have an oily T-zone. I've been a little bit more oily actually. I think it's because of the weather. It's kind of hot where I live right now. So I think that's making my skin a little bit more oily, at least on the T-zone, than usual. So I have been using a little bit more powder than normal. If you were looking for a powder for your under eye or a setting powder, but you have dry skin and you have trouble finding a good one, I have 8 for you guys in case you guys were looking for a powder and you have dry skin. Alright, so the first 2 powders that I have are going to be foundation powders, and they pretty much work the same. They're very similar as far as in coverage, as far as in finish, on how it looks, on how it wears. Very similar. So I have Covergirl's Vitalist Healthy Powder. I have this one, and then I have Jcat's Aquasurance Compact Foundation. So I used this in my last video when I was testing out Rimmel's foundation. Check that video out. I'll leave a link below. I actually got this at Big Lots for less than $4. So I was definitely winning that day. I used this over a very lightweight foundation, a BB cream, or just anything that's really lightweight. Even a lightweight moisturizer would work really nicely with them. So I use a really lightweight base underneath. And then I go in with either a big fluffy brush and kind of just powder it all over my face. Or what I have been doing lately is I'll use a beauty sponge and I'll just tap it in really lightly and then just kind of set certain parts of my face really lightly though. I feel even though these are powders and even though you can build them up, I think these have medium to full coverage, but I don't think you ever really want your powder to be full coverage, because that's when it starts looking really cakey. They don't look powdery. Obviously, if you pack it on, it's gonna look like powder. But these just work really nicely with dry skin. It doesn't emphasize any texture. It doesn't emphasize any dryness or dry patches. It just sits really nicely on the skin. And I think the trick is using a good setting spray. Either like a really dewy, hydrating setting spray just works amazing on top of these. Really nice. It just melts it. But yeah, these are just really wonderful for dry skin, humble skin. They just have a really soft, matte finish, and I highly recommend them. For under eyes, I have 3 bad boys here. The first one is going to be kind of like a staple in a lot of people's collection, and this is number 7's Translucent Powder. This is the first powder I've ever fallen in love with that just didn't dry me out, that just didn't look powdery and cakey, and just looked really soft, really nice, really filtered. Under the eye, it just gives you such a soft, filtered look. It doesn't look dry, it doesn't look cakey, it looks really nice. Second powder I have for the under eye is Milani's Prep Set and Glow Illuminating Translucent Powder, and I think this is my favorite one to use under the eye because there's no glitter in this. There's no, nothing like that. But it just has the slightest glow to it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how a powder is glowy, but it's illuminating. Okay, so the next powder I have for you guys, it's actually more of a brightening powder. So I do not use this to set my under eyes. I use it to brighten up my eyes. It's Essence Brighten Up Banana Powder. Oh my god, guys. This is such a good brightening powder. This is such a great little powder. The way that I use this is I use a tapered brush like this one. This is by e.l.f. and I just really lightly just tap it and I'll just apply it under my eyes. And it just gives you that really nice brightness without looking cakey, without looking powdery. It doesn't look dry, it doesn't look powdery, it doesn't look anything like that. It just adds a good brightness to the skin, and it also slightly sets it, but I don't bake with it. This is a way too brightening. You could also use this to highlight and lightly set like your T-zone or certain areas of your face. If you're looking a little tired, if you didn't get enough sleep, or you just want that extra brightness under your eye, such a good little powder for dry skin or just in general for everybody. Alright, so the next three powders are face powders. I love to use these for kind of like all over the face when I do set my face. Alright, so the first one I have for you guys is NYX No Filtered Finishing Powder. This also just has that slight glow to it. This is in medium olive, so this gives you a really nice all over powdered glow. It does not look drying, it doesn't look powdery, it just gives you a glow. The way that I use this is as a finishing powder, so I take a big fluffy brush and I just swipe it all over my face, or take a damp beauty sponge and then I spot that certain areas of my face. So the difference between this one and the Milani one is this one does have slight coverage to it. It does have color to it, so you do have to get your shade. Such a beautiful powder. I love it, especially for dry skin. It's not gonna look dry, it's not gonna look powdery or anything like that. It just looks pretty on the skin, especially if you're using a light foundation or a tinted moisturizer or a BB cream or something light like that. It just looks amazeballs. This is a really nice one. Alright, this next one, I feel this is such an OG powder that a lot of people have, and it did take me a while to finally get it and try it out, and I was just in love with it, and that's Maybelline's Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder, and this one's in 25 medium. Wow, this is such a good, solid, everyday, very versatile powder to have. You could set your under eye with this, you could set your whole face with it. It's just a very good product, kind of like a must-have in your collection because it makes your skin just look soft. It gives you a light coverage. It does give you like a fresh, natural look. It smoothes out skin's texture. This is so good for dry skin because it leaves your face kind of just evened out, fresh looking, and it's good, guys. Alright, last one I have for you guys. I think this has to be my favorite one. You could use this to set your under eyes, all over the face. The way that I found this is by JuicyJas. She's a beauty YouTuber here. I love her channel so much. For her recommendation, I got Collab's Set the Stage Ultra Fine Loose Setting Powder, and this is in Ivory Sand. If you only take one thing away from this video, is this powder is bomb. I think it's everything that I like about the other powders, kind of like put into one. It has a slight glow to it. It's very soft, very fluffy. It gives you a soft, focused, filtered look. It doesn't look dry on your skin. It doesn't look powdery. It's just perfection. It is a tad bit pricey, but I mean, it's a pretty big jar. It's so worth it, especially if you have a dry skin and you struggle with finding a powder that just works good and doesn't look drying, doesn't look cakey. It's so ultra finely milled. Like I said, it just gives your face a soft airbrush look. I love it. It's my favorite one. With all these powders, I think what is really key here is how you apply them. How you apply them is going to make a really big difference on how it looks at the end and how it wears, and if it does look cakey, if it does look powdery. Even though this is my favorite powder and it's glowing, it's good for dry skin, and it's beautiful, it's at the end of the day, it's still powder. So if I pack it on, it's gonna look powdery, it's gonna look cakey, it's gonna look dry. These are amazing products. With the right application, they're not gonna look powdery, they're not gonna look dry, they're not gonna crack up. They're just gonna look overall pretty on the skin. Application is very, very important with these powders. The three main ways to use these powders: if you're going to use it for a finishing powder, all face powder, use big fluffy brush for all over the face like these. They're just going to help the powder just go on very lightly. That way we avoid that cake face. And then for under eyes, I actually sometimes like using a eyeshadow brush instead of a tapered brush. I feel like you could really just concentrate the powder where you need it the most. So where I need it the most is kind of closer to my lash line where it tends to crease a little bit more. Using a big fluffy eyeshadow brush, it's just gonna make it go on a little bit more lighter, more gentler, more softer. And then always use a really small amount. Always tap your brush to get that extra powder off. That way you're just getting a little bit, and if you feel like you need a little bit more, go on again with the same process. Just get a little bit of powder, tap it off as much as you can, and then just go back to lightly set your under eyes. And then for all over the face, I really love using a damp beauty sponge, especially if you use a dewy setting spray in conjunction with it being wet. It's just gonna help the powder just really melt into the skin, take away that powdered look. And when I do kind of want a little bit more coverage or more of a filtered look under my eye, I love using that little trick with the dewy setting spray and the beauty sponge under my eye. So it just looks like the powder just really melted onto the skin. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little collection of powders for dry skin. And like I said, application is key, guys. The way that you apply these powders is gonna make a whole lot of a difference if you use a light hand as opposed to just heavy-handed. Hopefully this video has been helpful if you've been on the search for a good powder and you have dry skin. I know it took me a really long time to find these powders. I always kind of struggle with finding like a good powder that doesn't look dry, that doesn't look powdery. It was just really just exciting just to find like the Milani one, the Collab one, and that NYX ones that have a slight glow. That was such a wow moment. So I was just so happy to find these, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and it was helpful for you guys. Alright guys, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night, have a good evening, have a good morning, have a good week guys. Bye bye. Bye guys.